fatal attack on 8 women at an abandoned mine in Krugersdorp on Friday, highlighting the dire situation that mining communities face. The General Industries Workers Union of South Africa condemning the attack, pointing the finger at the mining industry and the governing ANC. We're joined now by the GIWUSA president, Mametlwe Sebei. Mametlwe, good evening to you, and thank you for your time. There are many different issues here. There's issues around migration, there's issue around zama-zamas, around the mining industry, but we should maybe start with gender-based violence. And the problem we have, as South African men, I suspect, Southern African men perhaps, where we have this culture that men continually think they're allowed to attack and abuse women. That's one of the big points of this conversation.
Yes, there is certainly, a major crisis in society here, because we live in a country that, even by the Interpol report, we have been classified as, the rape capital of the world. And that's because, every 28 seconds, a person in this country, someone in this country, is either raped or subjected to a form of sexual assault. This year alone, we have seen about 13,000 reported cases of rape in the first 3 months of the year. And that says to you that not only we have an epidemic, but in fact the situation is not getting any better. And the reality is government has absolutely no solution. I'm hearing things coming out of the ANC Congress, out of the ANC policy conference. If I had any faith in the ANC, I'll despair. But the reality is that I never expected anything. They have no program, they have no solution to end gender-based violence, as they have no solution to end any problems of capitalism, of their system, a culmination of all their neoliberal austerity programs since 1994.
One of the big issues is zama-zamas, illegal miners. This was a settlement of people, it seems, who'd been living there and working there for some time. The local communities told stories. In some cases, people too scared to leave their homes at night. This settlement was there for a long time. What's the best way to deal with this problem of illegal mining? And we see it around the country in so many different forms, in the center of Joburg as well.
Firstly, when we're talking about zama-zamas, right, there are 2 layers there. One is that ex-mine workers who are desperate to eke out a living, who have been abandoned by big mining corporations along with those mines, that have been, abandoned without any proper closure. And there's about 6,500 abandoned, derelict, and ownerless mines in this country, which were operated by big mining corporations that we know about, that government does absolutely nothing to hold accountable. Now, most of these mine workers are working there, as artisanal miners. But there is another element to that. There are organized criminal syndicates that are ruthlessly exploiting the fact that a lot of those mine workers lack equipment, but also access to the market. And these syndicates, unfortunately, are connected with the people in the policing industry and part of illicit trading on minerals. And that's the reason that a few years ago, a report by United Nations actually showed that this country is exporting, or rather, our trading partners are actually receiving 3 times in terms of minerals from South Africa than we are actually exporting. And that says to you, this is a multi-billion industry that a lot of those impoverished mine workers cannot be responsible for. There is somebody, and people at a very high level within both the mining corporations, but also within the state, that are facilitating this. And these people are, of course, linked with these organized criminal syndicates that are imposing a reign of terror, rape, and other forms of sexual and gender-based violence are weaponized as part of that reign of terror against these, disparate ex-mine workers, their communities and families, first and foremost.
Many of the people, almost all of the people we understand, have been arrested are foreign nationals. We don't actually yet have, as I understand, police evidence linking them to the rapes, but the people who are living there are being held, many of them, on immigration offences. I think society is going to be talking about this a lot, the fact that they were foreign nationals. How do you believe as a society we should deal with it?
Yes, what you're having there is, obviously, a xenophobic witch hunt by government that obviously doesn't address the issue. As government itself admitted, about 80 of those people have no connection to the rape. Obviously, it's a posturing by a government that does not have confidence that it would apprehend real criminals. We are, of course, saying that real criminals need to be apprehended. As seen yesterday, they need to be effectively prosecuted. And, of course, judged and sentenced to the maximum prejudice of the law. And this is the only way that, of course, we're going to send a message. But I think much more important is how do we address the issues in the mining-affected community, particularly those areas affected by abandoned mines. The levels of unemployment there, of poverty, of crime, is simply something that you can only resolve through policing. What we need to do is to say, how do we ensure that mining corporations that have for years been making profits, and some of them are continuing to make those profits at an astronomical rate. Like if you look this year, Anglo Platinum, which is a subsidiary of Anglo American, increased its earning from 41 billion to 108 billion rand. It handed over 80 billion of that in profits to its handful of shareholders as dividend. That is the money we needed to clean the environmental mess, but also to address situation and horrendous conditions in those communities in ensuring that we transition, even where mines are closing, into a sustainable post-mining communities where levels of unemployment that are currently there have been eradicated, where poverty, where all stressful conditions that, of course, create all sorts of problems, including gender-based violence, are tackled effectively.
Thank you very much indeed, the President of the Union, GIWUSA, Mametlwe Sebei. I do appreciate the time, a lot coming out of that story. Well.